What's going on, YouTube? It's JayzTwoCents here, and doing the second Tech Talk in 1 week's time. I don't know if we're on some sort of a marathon or something, but I've been slacking on the videos, but I've really been picking it up on the live streams. And as I mentioned on Tuesday, I think it was, I have got a special guest here with me. I've got Ubu the Tech Guru, aka Ubuntuaddicted, and he was one of my early followers and subscribers. How did you find my channel?
Man, it was well, what's up, guys? How's it going? Ubu the Tech Guru here, coming straight at you. Glad to be on the show. I really appreciate that, Jay. But I think the way I found you was through somebody that I followed on Twitter had retweeted one of your Tech Addiction episodes. I don't know if it was Holiday Doc or...
Probably.
I think that's who it was. And then from there, I love that Tech Addiction show. And, you know, from there, I'm a big techie at heart. So I just basically, from there, I followed on, and you know, it's been a blast so far.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Tech Addiction. It's one of those things that I think was a little bit ahead of its time, but I think it's time to start bringing it back.
I heard you talking about that on Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, I miss doing it. It's just, it took so much time. It was so time intensive to do that every single week.
You put a lot of effort into it. I mean, that's... Yeah.
I don't know if I'll do it weekly, maybe bi-weekly, I don't know, or bi-monthly, whatever twice a month is. But it's a lot of work. But I think now that I have an audience base big enough to make it worth it, I'll probably start doing it again. And especially because this time of the year is when a lot of things technology-wise really start to ramp up, because everyone wants to get their new tech out before the holidays. And, you know, so there's a couple of things I want to talk about today. One, I thought you were a really good fit for today's show because of, well, granted your name, you're an Ubuntu fan. I had a coworker who's a programmer, and he was messing around with Ubuntu a bit. And he had a dual boot system, and he really liked it. And I get a lot of messages from people asking about alternatives to Windows and whether or not I think that they should dual boot Mac OS or Ubuntu. And I know all about Mac OS, but I don't know anything about Ubuntu. So I thought that maybe we talk a little bit about that today. I want to talk about CISPA, and it looks like breaking news, like we were talking about just before we went live here. It looks like they might have caught the second suspect out in Boston, which makes me happy because, one, I was born in Boston. Two, I have an office in Boston. And granted, I don't live in Boston anymore. It's still kind of, you know, my roots. So let me go ahead and ask you right off the bat. Program compatibility on Ubuntu, is it growing?
Program compatibility.
Yeah,
I mean, as far as like the number of like software and programs,
right? Ports
for the OS,
right?
You know, everything. I run Ubuntu strictly. I don't even have a dual boot system. I have a Windows computer over to my left because my girlfriend uses it. But other than that, and everything that I need to do for, you know, everything that I do, there's free software, free open source software for every single thing. You know, if it's video capture, video editing. You know, you name it, I can do it. I mean, sure, they might not be as well developed. The only thing I will say that's not up to snuff in Linux so far is gaming, which, you know, they actually are starting to ramp that up because there's a Steam client now for Linux, and more developers, indie game developers, are coming out with, you know, they're porting their games over to Linux.
Now, there's still no A-list titles up there on Ubuntu Steam, right?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. What were the games that I just picked up in a recent Humble Bundle?
I like the fact that they're picking up indie games at least, because I'm so fed up with a lot of the mainstream games and, you know, EA and Origin and what they're doing in the gaming industry. I've really been kind of supporting the indie games lately.
I don't know. Is Team Fortress? Would you consider that an A game? I don't know.
I would, only because of the fact that it's Valve and it's been around for a decade. Granted, it's Team Fortress 2.
I have Team Fortress 2 on my Ubuntu machine. I tried playing it. My computer's not quite up to snuff on it since I'm not really a computer gamer, but I've been trying to get into it, and I realized since that I really need to. I'm running an old Core 2 Duo with only 2 gigs of RAM, so it's like. And an 8400 GS NVIDIA, so that's like barely enough to run it on medium settings, Team Fortress 2. So I got to upgrade my hardware if I want to get into gaming. But yeah, I don't think there's really any A-list games, you know, on the Linux side yet.
But you know, I'm impressed though that how well does Ubuntu run on that system? Because in today's operating system world, it's your system is rather obsolete. You couldn't
Oh,
run
it's for
OS
sure.
10 or it couldn't run
Yeah, it's
Windows
definitely
7.
obsolete. And I mean, dude, my computer is just snappy. It's the only thing, like I said, is lacking with the hardware would probably be my video. Working on videos and rendering. It takes me like a normal, say, an 8-minute or 10-minute gameplay of Crysis 3 or Black Ops 2 to render out that with the commentary overlaid and any kind of graphics overlay I do and stuff like that and transitions. Maybe it takes a couple hours, and then and that's the one downside to the hardware I'm still on.
Wow. When I made that,
But otherwise, I mean,
when I made that zoo video with my daughter over the weekend, the vlog, I did that on my wife's Core 2 Duo Mac system, and that render took 25 minutes, and I found that to be painful. So I kind of, it's dedication. If it takes you multiple hours to render out a video, and at the rate you were putting up Crysis 3 videos, that machine must have been at 100% for like months straight.
Yeah, if I could look at the uptime or the stats on this machine, I tell you, it's the load on it is load average is probably pretty high. Basically, I do all my video editing at night, and then I'll just click render and go to bed, and then come home or wake up in the morning and hit upload, and then I got to wait another 2 hours for the upload.
Oh wow! What's your connection speed?
I have 20 down from Time Warner Cable and only half a meg upload.
Oh wow! Yeah, I had that.
Upload really sucks.
I had that package, except for it was 20 down, 1 up, and I'm so not happy with Time Warner. They're so behind the times when it comes to their upload speeds. Because even on the wideband, I get 50 down, but only 5 up. And granted, I say only 5. It still takes me, sometimes 45 minutes to upload a 15-minute video because of YouTube server lag, where it's not accepting the file as fast as I can present it. Right. But I'm definitely a hardware snob, and I try not to be. But geez, I complain when I look at the rendering time on some of these videos and it says 15 minutes, and I'm like, God, really 15 minutes? What am I going to do for 15 minutes? But I know I shouldn't complain.
I could render out a video in 15 minutes.
really consider AMD when you do your update or your upgrade.
Oh, and I know. See, I've been talking about an upgrade for a while. Back in January I was talking with you about getting one of the FX core series from AMD, like an 8-core or something. I haven't pulled the trigger yet. My tax money should be coming in.
They're so cheap now.
Yeah, I know. It's incredible. See, and with my operating system, I don't have to go, like today's processor. I can go, a couple years old, and it's still going to be awesome for me.
Yeah, even if you were to get, say, like a 965 Black Edition and overclock it a little bit, that would be just light years ahead of what you have now. And you can get that processor for like $80.
Yeah, yeah.
And I overclocked mine up to 3.42. Oh no, to 4.2 gigs every day that I had it, and gamed and rendered and everything. And then I sold it to a guy up on Hard Forums, which is the computer forum I go to, and he's been using it and overclocking it. They are just like brick houses when it comes to processors.
Well, I'll probably have to get back in touch with you, whatever you just said, because that's probably the way I'll go. You can give me some good suggestions on that.
Yeah, and one of my most...
I could probably put together a really cheap build for a couple $300.
Oh, easy. Yeah,
for what I need, because I have...
You have reusable parts.
Yeah.
But if you're using anything that still has... are you using SATA 2 or SATA 3 drives?
Ha! SATA? No,
Okay.
I think I have like 2 SATA drives. I'm still on IDE. Most of my drives are IDE.
You're going to have a hard time finding a modern board that still has an IDE port.
Well, see, in my workstation, I'll take that back. My workstation, it does have like one SATA drive, but most of my drives are shared from my file server over NFS or over Samba.
Got it.
So, like, I have one main drive connected directly that I put, that's what I render to because I want it the fastest connection I can, and that's SATA. So, if I do upgrade, or if I do get a new drive, it'll probably be, like a 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte drive, SATA.
Right.
Whatever's on the motherboard,
My friend Coconut Monkey gets a little laugh out of the Black Edition processors. Just, I guess, that's the friend that was on the vlog last night. So he gets a little kick out of it being a Black Edition, I guess. All right, guys. Well, hey, you know what the point of this show is? It's ask your tech questions, and one of the reasons why I'm getting people in here too is not only to try and help and support some of the smaller channels, because I've been blessed to grow much faster than I've expected, And when you get big YouTubers that help out the little guys, I've been helped out by big YouTubers. You've been helped out by Wings, and it's important to pay it forward. So
to give back. Yep, exactly.
That's why I told Robbie. He said I'll pay you back some way in the future. I said what you need to do is you need to help somebody else out. That's what you need to do. So
there you go.
But
pay it forward.
The other thing too is I want to get other tech people in here because there's questions I'm asked every single week, and sometimes I don't know the answer. And I figure between two tech brains, maybe we can collectively come up with answers for these guys.
There you go.
But we've got almost 40 people in here right now, and I don't know if the stream is just, guys, if you're typing inside the YouTube chat, it lags for me. I don't know if it lags for you guys, but for me, sometimes I don't see it till up to 5 minutes after when it finally refreshes, whether I do the mouse trick or not. So you have two options of ways to ask questions here. One, we've got both of our Twitters right here up on the screen. Make sure you're following us both. There's also my Facebook page where you can go up to and ask questions, and you can take your chances with the YouTube stream, but I can't guarantee that I'm going to see it. So I want to talk to you about the Cyber Security Act. A lot of people may not know that the Cyber Security Act passed, and what that does is it basically gives the government just an open back door into anything cyber communication. So you're talking. Remember back in the 80s and 90s, it was always don't say bomb on the phone or it'll trigger the FBI computer to start recording your calls, sort of thing. It's kind of like that, but when it comes to all of your digital transmissions, and I believe it goes into mobile devices as well that use data. So, I haven't looked at the bill in as depth as I should have, and my fault on that it kind of slipped under my radar because I was following it late last year when it was being pushed through, presented to Congress, and it's passed. So the government is just one step closer to monitoring everything we do on the internet, which that brings up such a debate, and I really don't want to get into it too deeply, but at what price does security and freedom come, right? Because I don't think you can have either or without the other, and it's, oh my god, I just don't like the idea of somebody spying on me. I mean, I've even stopped kind of using my Kinect ever since Microsoft put in a patent to be able to watch you at any time on your Kinect.
Right.
I mean, that's just kind of creepy.
Two funny tweets from I follow Your Anon News at Your Anon News. They're anonymous, obviously.
Yeah.
And two of the recent tweets, one of it says, CISPA abolishes warrants and any other form of legal mandate for cyber spying.
Yeah.
It's basically an indefinite wiretap.
It is.
And then their next one says, if you're okay with the government collecting every photo you email to your wife, husband, or friend, don't worry about CISPA.
Yeah, really.
So it's kind of scary. I mean, it's when I remember when SOPA, wasn't that SOPA that came out and the whole everybody just like basically crapped on it and
wasn't that the wire? It was the wiretapping, wasn't it?
Well,
I know I recognize the acronym, but I don't remember what it stands for.
It stood for Stop Online Privacy Act.
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny the way that this government works. So many of my followers are not from the United States, but we're definitely in an odd time because technology is advancing so fast, and yet they're still caught up on the guns thing, and it's so funny to me that the Republicans agreed to it. To pass this bill because they're really against the whole concept of the wiretapping and whatnot, at least when it comes to the public. They would love to wiretap on other politicians, but I just don't like the fact that, I mean, anything you send over the airwaves, you already know anything that goes on the internet gets saved somewhere forever. There's no such thing as deleting anything from the internet, but to go into my phone or to, anything that, if I'm connected to the internet, they can go into my computer. I mean, no matter how good your firewall is, they will find a way in.
Right. I remember when SOPA was trying to be passed, SOPA and PIPA bills, they were like shut down immediately because huge companies backed them, like GoDaddy and big companies basically said, they even stopped going with some companies stopped going with certain providers, or maybe that's what it was, like. These websites moved away from GoDaddy because GoDaddy supported SOPA and PIPA. I forget how it all went down, but there was Oh, here it is. Here, Google and Wikipedia posted protests against SOPA and PIPA last year,
Yep.
but neither company has publicly displayed direct opposition to CISPA like they did in
Yeah,
in 2012.
SOPA was huge because you had all the companies like
Right.
Google and them, that were protesting.
Yep, and nobody really did that for CISPA, right?
Yeah. I got a question here from CSGW Clan. He says, "Hey Jay, I did a render test on Sony Vegas Pro 12. He's got a FX 6300 6-core. Anyway, he did a 720p and it took 45 minutes plus to render, and it was a Modern Warfare 3 11-minute gameplay. Why so long?" What kind of graphics card do you have? One of the things with Sony is it is able to use NVIDIA graphics cards for CUDA core rendering. And it's a setting, you go into Preferences and you go into Video, and then you can check the button that says Use GPU if available. And if you do that, it speeds up your rendering by about 30 to 50% depending on which graphics card you have. Like my 680, if I do it's just a straight CPU render, it can take 25, 30 minutes to render a 15-minute video. With my GPU enabled, it splits that load as if I had two processors, and it only takes 12 minutes or so. So I'm pretty lucky. My system's heavily overclocked though, which makes a huge difference. If I reduce my overclock, I'd probably be fairly slow as well. But I'm rendering at about 15 frames per second, which I think is pretty good, especially on a 30 frame per second video. So looks like Jake was just putting some system specs there. He wants my opinion. Jake Harvey, Core i5 2500K, 4.5 gigs, obviously overclocked. An ADATA 60 gigabyte SSD, Seagate 500 gig, ASRock Z77 Pro what? 3, 4? Corsair CX600W, and a Corsair Vengeance 8 gigabyte 1600. It's a very good system. The SSD for the operating system is a little small. If it's already built, you can't do anything about it. If you can bump that up to like a 120, 128, you'll be happy. But other than that, very solid system. I still like Sandy Bridge a lot.
Now, how come, I have a quick question about that. Why do you say that the hard drive is small for the operating system? I mean, how much does Windows really require?
Windows really only requires about 15 to 20 gigs. It's just once you start dealing with SSD speeds, you'll start to find yourself wanting to put more programs on it. Like I run I run all of my rendering software loaded on the SSD, but I render to a standalone drive.
Yeah.
And I put one or two of my favorite games on there. And when Windows boots up, and I think my system takes 12 seconds. When you load a game like Battlefield 3 that takes my friends on mechanical drives 2 minutes to load a map, and I'm in there in 25 seconds, you really get spoiled by the SSD. So
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You can get a 128 gig one now for $100. So it's one of those things where if you can spend the extra $40 I think it'll cost, just do it.
Right.
And already my 128, I've got 41 gigs left on it, and I'm looking at the 500 gig Samsung 840s. I've done two builds. This one right here to my left also has a 500 gig 840 in it. These SSDs by Samsung are just amazing. When it comes to speed of the SSD, let's put it this way: your IDE drive probably writes 20 megabytes per second.
Yeah.
My 7200 RPM 64 meg cache mechanical drive writes 100 megabytes per second. My M4, which is an SSD, writes 200 megs per second, and this 840 writes 360 megabytes per second. So when it comes to the speed differences,
wow,
it's insane. But I don't recommend SSDs though for editing, because their life is rated on how many times you rewrite it.
You rewrite to them, yeah.
Granted, when I look at SSD life, which is a tool I use, it says I'm at 99% health, and my drive's not projected to die until like 2048. So if it's accurate, then hey. But what else is going to break in there before the chips do? So
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I haven't gone the SSD route yet, and I mean, my it's funny because like I just rebuilt, or I transferred over a bunch of hardware or hard drives to a new server build for my file server and my DVR server, and I just realized my operating system hard drive is an old 17 gig Western Digital IDE drive.
Yeah.
I mean, Ubuntu, man, it only requires probably about max 5 gigabits of storage. That's it, max. I mean, a minimal system could run on a 10 gigabit hard drive.
Yeah, my coworker loved it.
Looking at it depends on log files too, and temp all temps and all that stuff too, though. Obviously.
Yeah, my coworker loved it a lot. I remember, he would tell me, "Hey, look at this new operating system," and now I I'm not like that interested, I guess, in operating systems. So I was just kind of, cool, whatever. But then it wasn't until I met you that it reminded me, oh yeah, there's this Ubuntu thing. And if I get a bigger SSD, I might do a dual boot just to screw around. It's not like it's hard to partition and install. You know,
Right.
I've
It's
been
not
too
at
lazy
all
to do
right.
it. And since it's free and open source.
What I was going to tell you is the easiest thing would be if you run it from a USB drive.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I forgot.
You can just put it on a 4 gig flash drive or 16 gig flash drive and run it from there.
Yeah,
it's still pretty
because
speedy.
let's see, Windows is the only operating system that doesn't let you run from a flash drive. Mac
Right.
OS, you can do it. In fact, what's funny is the operating system disk that comes from Mac. I don't know if you've ever dealt with Mac. OS 10
A little
anyway.
bit.
When you use the boot disk, it's literally a full copy of OS 10 on a disk. So when you need to run your utilities to do disk cleanup and stuff like that, you just run it. You run the operating system from the drive, from the DVD.
It's like a live CD. Yeah, Linux does the same thing. Yep.
And Apple doesn't even send DVDs anymore. They ship all of their systems now with a thumb drive with the OS.
Oh, nice! I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because they're not putting
Recovery partitions.
no, they're not including optical drives anymore in their computers.
Oh, right. Okay.
Unless you go with a MacBook Pro or like a Mac Pro, those will have it. But Mac Air, the new MacBook Retina, they're all about being thin, so they've taken out even the slot drive.
Right.
So,
Yep.
Okay, we got some more questions here, and we're bumping up to 50 people. If you guys are just joining, this is Ubu the Tech Guru, a.k.a. Ubuntuaddicted, here on YouTube and Twitter. Make sure you go check out his videos. If you guys are into Crysis 3, and I don't know what it is, I've been a huge Crysis fan, and I still have 1 and 2 sitting right up there on my shelf. I just couldn't get into 3. I don't know what it was. I think I just am so burnt out on shooters right now, honestly. Because I couldn't get into Modern Warfare or Black Ops 2 either. I tried.
Yeah.
Just, I think it's the lack of time, but okay. So we've got, as always, I need to just start renaming this stream to GPU Talk with JayzTwoCents, because that's all anyone ever asks me is, hey.
Yeah,
GPU.
I noticed that a lot on Tuesday too.
Yeah. Jack Arsenal says Crucial makes a 960 gigabyte SSD. Yes, they do, and in fact, if I get a huge SSD like that, I want it to be a PCI Express drive. So that you get full transfer or data rates, and not to mention you can get a full gigabit of write speed. Could you imagine writing a gigabyte per second?
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
That's insane. Yeah. Okay. Gerard W98 says, "Hey Jay, opinion please. i7 3770K 4.5 AMD Radeon 9770 gigahertz overclocked to 1200. Crucial Ballistic Sport 1600." He said 7870. Yeah. You know, I know some people have made comments that, hey, dude, you haven't put up a video in like a week and a half. What's going on? I have been recording about 6 videos simultaneously. So you guys are going to see some pretty frequent uploads over the next week or two, because I got the opportunity to do with this build over here. And I mean, some of you guys have seen it. Maybe I haven't. I'm turning the camera here so you can see this build. Where is my... There we go. Right here. It's got a lot of parts in there that people are constantly asking me, is this good, is this good? So I decided, one, not only did I have free range with this customer build to pick the parts, I just had 2 requirements. It's going to be a workstation, it needs to be fast, it needs to be quiet, it needs to be dust friendly, and it needs to be bulletproof. Like, we can't be dealing with system lockups or blue screens or any of that stuff. So I took the opportunity to buy parts that I found people asking me about a lot that met that criteria, and the 7870 gigahertz edition is one of them. And I spent a couple of hours yesterday testing the overclock of the graphics card, and let me tell you right now, there's a lot of variance in graphics cards. First of all, one, if you're going to be overclocking, you're going to have to take your chances. You may find one card will overclock. Some people have hit 1350, 1370 megahertz on their graphics cards. Some of them, they can't get out of the 1100 megahertz range. It's just, it depends on the binning of the chip, and I talked about that last week, what binning is. If you don't know what binning is, go look at Tuesday's video. 2, it is so freaking quiet. I was checking the fans constantly, make sure they're actually on. I have the MSI version. It's not a twin frozer, but it's the same concept. It's 2 fans on there with a heat pipe system. Graphics cards, man, they're getting quiet now, and I'm impressed. because I've only ever used reference models for NVIDIA, which are they sound like hair dryers. So that 7870, I think that's going to be the first video I'm going to put up of the parts I review on this system, because I get asked about graphics cards every hour, and I can't just keep answering the same questions over and over. And not to mention, my graphics card comparison video, or at least my discussion on graphics cards, is a little outdated, so it's time to redo it.
All right. If you don't mind, I got a question from DRock4299. He asks what my system specs are. I'm running an old Core 2 Duo, 1.8 gigahertz.
That's the E6300, I believe.
It's E4300, I believe.
Oh, it's a 43? Okay.
I think.
I thought the 6300 was a 1.86 because I have one hanging on my wall.
Here, I can check right here. Cat Proc CPU info. It's the 4300.
Well, I don't know what the difference between them are then.
I don't either. I think well, whatever. And it's got, I'm maxed out at only 2 gigs of RAM, and it's still only DDR2. it's old RAM. I have actually, the motherboard I have was ahead of its time, where you could put in either DDR RAM or DDR2 RAM, or PCI Express or AGP. It's an AS Rock.
AGP. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, right.
Memory lane, man.
I know, right?
I came across.
Like I said, this hardware is so old.
I came across. Yeah, but hey, look how much of your money's worth you got. Holy shit.
Exactly. I've been on this hardware forever.
I mean, you're pushing what, 6 years?
Yeah, easily.
Yeah. Gosh.
I don't know when. Yeah,
I came across a video on YouTube. I happened to look up something about video cards, and I was kind of watching, and he was just generally talking about parts of the graphics card and sockets and stuff. And you couldn't see what card it was because it was kind of a grainy video, and I knew it was old. But when he talked about moving off of PCI and onto the new AGP socket, I was like, oh god! And I looked at the date. It was 2005. I went, oh wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing that video is still up.
I think I still have one PCI graphics card sitting somewhere in my basement here.
Yeah, I was shocked that this Gigabyte motherboard that I did the review on has 2 PCI slots. I hadn't seen any motherboards coming with PCI slots anymore. They've been Express and Express 1.0 only.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's good for having, if you have old PCI sound card or something, no problem with that.
Right.
Demonic Chivas wants to know if he should upgrade, and that gives me an idea. I've been kicking around this idea of doing a video, and maybe I'll do that tonight. I just don't know. I'm in that mode where I have too much going on in my head and nothing's coming out because I can't.
You gotta write that stuff down and just focus on one or two.
Yeah, and it's not like I'm forgetting it. It's just I'm ADDing from one idea to the next, so nothing's coming out. Yeah,
I know the feeling.
But I want to do a video that's an all-inclusive how to know when it's time to upgrade. And because I get people asking me all the time, and Demonic Chivas just did, and I'm going to get to his question, is how do you know if it's time to upgrade? He has a half X, which is a case, by the way. You never need to upgrade a case unless it's too small. He has a Radeon 6950 and an AMD Phenom 1090Ti, all default cooling should you upgrade. Look, it depends on what you do. If you're just gaming, that 6950 is still a great card. If you're not scared, you can flash the BIOS on that thing to be a 6970. They're the same exact hardware. The 1090Ti and the 1100Ti were like the best processors AMD put out prior to the FX series that turned out to be just a huge flop with the bulldozer. A lot of people still run their 1090s and 1100Ts. They're the best phenoms they ever did. And all default cooling. You don't need aftermarket cooling unless you live in a hot environment or you want to overclock. So
that's what he's asking. That's what he's asking, though, Jay. He said, "Should I upgrade my cooling before overclocking?"
Oh, there we go. Thanks, I missed that because it scrolled
That's
down.
all right.
Yeah, it scrolled down on me. Yes, never overclock on stock cooling ever. In fact, stock cooling on AMD's side can barely handle the stock frequencies. It's pathetic. Yes, overclocking. You must upgrade your cooling. If that means adding case fans, or if your case doesn't accept it, and the half X, you got plenty of room. I believe you have 200 millimeters up top. I think you have at least one in the front. You have 120s or 140s in the back. The case is perfect for overclocking. Go and get yourself a Hyper 212 from Demonic. I believe you're in the U.S. Go to Newegg. I think you can get that thing for $25. A Hyper 212 by Cooler Master. One of the most highly recommended overclocking coolers you can get. $25, and then there you go. And if you see any questions you want to answer, Ubu, just jump right in, because
Oh, all right,
I
cool.
tend to be long-winded. So
That's all right. Yeah.
okay, Red Axe wins. Red Axe wins. Hey Jay, can you be on the next Text Talk? You're the guy with the $400 build video. I don't know. Send me a message. We'll see. One thing you guys have to realize too about why I'm so picky on who I bring in here is the most coveted perk you get on YouTube is the live events, and if that gets abused, they yank it fast. So I've got to be very, and I believe you have live events too on your channel, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and you saw it was like the very last perk you get as a partner. And,
Yep.
And
Yeah.
you have to apply for it, and they review, and it's a process. So, I've got to be careful. That's why I don't allow people to call in or anything like that, because if they say something horribly against community standards, they'll yank it. They'll
Right.
yank it before they review it. Let's put it that way. So,
Yeah.
okay. What I like here is a lot of the guys that follow my channel are tech guys, so they all tend to help me out with the answers, and I greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a big help.
Maniac Power wants to know, hey Jay, is it worth buying a 3770 over a 2700 to get Intel's Q-Sync because you will be rendering a lot? I said it earlier in the stream, I'm still a huge fan of Sandy Bridge. I don't think Q-Sync is going to be worth the price to upgrade to the 3770. I think you could probably still get about maybe $180 used for your 2700, which means you're going to pay about another $100 for your 3770. They still use the same socket, so it's not like you have to buy a new motherboard. It's up to you, really. Overall computing power of the 3770 is not going to be... You're not going to really feel it too much. You are going to notice it runs hotter, though, because a lot of people may not realize this. They changed the way the heat spreader works on the Intel CPUs between Sandy and Ivy Bridge, whereas Sandy Bridge actually had the heat spreader soldered to the chip, so it had a perfect connection between the heat spreader and the die, where on the Ivy Bridge they just used thermal paste, and they did a pretty shitty job of it. So a lot of the Ivy bridges that are overheating, people are pulling their heat spreader off, reapplying thermal paste, and then they're getting amazing results. So, and Jake Harvey has another question. He has another build, i3 3220 with stock cooler. CPU idles around 35 to 40. On full load, it goes 48 to 55. That's not. He asked if that's entirely terrible. No, it's not. If you got up into the 60s, low 70s, and you have a problem, the Ivy Bridge can get all the way up to the 70s and 80s before you have to start worrying.
I have an old Pentium 4 Prescott. Those things ran so hot.
Oh,
Do you remember those?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I went to a Pentium D after that, which got really, really, really hot, too. Okay. Well, talk a little bit about your Crysis 3 videos, because I know that's kind of been a flavor of what you've been doing a lot lately, and it's no lie that you're like the only guy really doing consistent Crysis 3 coverage.
Yes, I mean there's a few other guys that are doing Crysis 3 videos, which is the community is really small for the game, and unfortunately, it's falling again just to how Crysis 2 did, where the developers aren't patching some of the core issues, so people will just we lost a lot of people when Gears of War Judgment came out. They traded in Crysis 3 and went out and bought Gears of War Judgment because there were a lot of issues. Now they have released a few patches for the game and it's getting more stable, but the game, I got to be honest, I mean, if people are coming from Call of Duty or other first-person shooters, it's really unique. I mean, because you have cloaking capabilities, which makes you almost invisible. You have armor capabilities. You can activate your armor and not unactivate your armor. I mean, there's a lot of ins and outs to the game, so it's not noob-friendly, and there's a little bit of a learning curve. But I have a great channel, which is Ubuntuaddicted on YouTube, and I have in-depth series that I'm doing, where I go really in-depth into the various aspects of whether it's weapons or maps, and things about like the Max Nano suit, which is a kill streak in the game. And I have a lot of videos. That's pretty much all I'm focusing mostly on Crysis 3 videos, but I do like a Tech Tuesdays every once in a while as well. I have a Shank 2 Let's Play, which is I'm playing on my Ubuntu machine, which is a neat little side scroller I picked up in a Humble Bundle. And then I also have I I just started up. It was an original Xbox title called Black. I don't know if you remember it.
No.
It was
From
the first
original
person
Xbox?
shooter. Original Xbox title. Yeah, it's called Black. And they actually made it available on the Xbox 360 for 800 Microsoft points. And I picked it up just because it was a really fun first-person shooter from the original Xbox days. And I just started up that series. I'm doing that every Monday, I think. But yeah, as far as the Crysis 3 and you know, if you guys are looking for help and trying to decide whether you should go out and buy the game, I think it's already dropped down in price. I know GameStop had a huge discount on it. It was only $40 for a while. I know Origin had a big sale on it for PC. Unfortunately, the numbers are really lacking lately with players. I mean, that doesn't really bode well for me trying to tell you guys to go buy it. But you know, multiplayer or the single player, the campaign of the game is really solid. It's really really fun. It's a good campaign. I know there's a couple of YouTubers that speak the same thing as I, like Vicstar. He's a big YouTuber. Trying to think of who else.
You've definitely stirred up some comments with Black. A lot of people seem to really like Black.
Yeah, Black was awesome, man. And I can't believe they remade it for the Xbox 360. See, believe it or not, I was going to do a series of Black on the original Xbox. I still have like 7 of them.
Right.
Six of them are converted into media centers, but they only play standard definition content, so I had to get rid of them. But one of them still runs, the regular operating system, and I have Black for it. And then I found that it was for the Xbox 360, and I was like, well, shit. Then I can just do it on the 360 instead of bringing out the old Xbox. Yeah, that was a really solid game, man. And for 800 Microsoft points, I think it's worth it just to play through the campaign again. It was a blast. They don't have multiplayer, but the campaign's really solid.
I will definitely agree with what you said, though, about the learning curve. I think that's what throws off a lot of people is they're not used to having to be quick on the fly, switching between cloak or armor or speed or power kick, and it's not your average shooter where there's jump, duck, camp. That stuff just doesn't fly in Crysis.
Right, it's definitely like a hybrid type shooter, I would say.
Yeah, I think part of it too, though, this is the first time Crysis had an open beta, and Crysis was always a PC platform game.
Right.
And I don't remember how popular Crysis 2 was on Xbox, but I didn't think Crysis 3 would be as popular on Xbox as it is on PC, but even on PC, it's not as popular as it was, and I think that's 2 reasons. One, Crysis 1 and 2 definitely gave a lot of PC gamers, a bad taste in their mouth, especially after Crysis 1, because let's face it, Crysis 1 still kicks computers' asses because of the fact that the coding on the optimization of the graphics was so poor. The graphics were amazing. The problem was even the best computers at the time couldn't run it because it wasn't optimized.
Right. Yeah.
And then Crysis 2, granted the graphics are a little more forgiving, people still think Crysis as that, you need the $3,000 computer to play that game.
Computer to play it, right.
And then by the time Crysis 3 rolled around, they put out the open demo, and most people, including myself, went, this is the same as Crysis 2, but with the Hunter mode. So I'm not going to pay $60 for this, So
yeah,
I think that's...
they did make a bunch of changes to try to make it more noob-friendly from Crysis 2 to Crysis 3. They added in a module called Auto Armor, which basically allows you, once you start taking damage, it'll automatically activate your armor for you if you're not used to pushing the left bumper. But that was one module they added, and then they also...
somebody in the stream, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that exists on PC.
Yeah, someone would have to correct me in the comments. I don't play it on PC, sorry. But, and then also, the other thing they did was they separated, how in Crysis 2 you had 1 meter for your cloak and your armor?
Right.
And, if you ran with cloak or armor on, your gauge went down and you had no health and you could get 1 bulleted.
Yeah.
Well, in Crysis 3, they made it so that you have 2 separate gauges and you have unlimited running capability now. It's a super fast-paced game. I mean, I'm still loving the crap out of it, even though with a little bit of issues.
Yeah,
I mean, like I said, hopefully it goes down on sale. And actually, I want to throw this stat out there. Yeah. The numbers currently for the Crysis 3 on this this website has all the statistics that you'd ever want to know about the game. If you're playing it, it's Crysis3s.com, and currently there's 298 players on PC. There's 798 players on PS3 and 852 on 360. So that's unbelievable that the PC is so low and 360 is, the highest.
Yeah, well,
Considering it came from PC.
Yeah, but the developers and especially the CryEngine ruined it for PC.
Yeah.
Because people don't even give it a shot. They're not going to take a chance that their computer can't run it. And not to mention when they put right on the box that if you want to run it on high settings, that it recommends a 680 with $500 graphics card. People aren't going to buy that.
Right.
Not in this economy. Shoot.
Yeah.
Matthews Honhart, hope I'm saying that right. He wants to know if we've ever messed with World of Tanks. I haven't. Which is
haven't either.
Which is funny because I have in-game cache just sitting right over there on code for that Hawken and PlanetSide 2. I haven't played PlanetSide 2, but I've got some coworkers that play it and love it, and I really should check it out since it's a free-to-play. But all right, Skeptica. Guys, I'm going to mutilate your names. I'm sorry. It seems like the only people who speak up are the ones that have like the hardest names to say. Okay, Skeptic Tom 818 says, Jay, question: when I get a new motherboard to replace your old one, do you have to uninstall all the drivers from your old motherboard, and if so, how? When you get a new motherboard, you're going to have to fresh install everything. So it's not like you're going to have to worry about moving any drivers, because one, your new motherboard is going to come with a driver disk for all of its chipset drivers. You're going to have to reinstall Windows in most cases. In all of the computers I've ever built, and all of the computers I've ever upgraded, I've only, I'd say less than 5 times, ever had Windows boot in an existing installation on a new motherboard, because it has to do with the chipset drivers. And if you're going with the chipset that's in the same generation, Windows will be able to boot. Otherwise, Windows is installed based on the motherboard chipset and the SATA drivers and the controller. Specifically, it's the controller of your hard drive that's built into the motherboard that matters. You can sometimes make it work with a repair install. It's iffy, and then usually you come up with some finicky problems after that. And it looks like we just had Ubuntu drop off the call here. It's going to try and reconnect him there. Let's see if we can get him back. Am I still live? Can you guys still hear me? Hello? Yeah, let's see if we can get him back here. Yeah, I think he might be having a some sort of a problem there. I'm not dropping any frames, so I know I'm still connected. Interesting. All right. Well, go ahead and get in some more of your questions here. We got 15 more minutes left before I'm going to get out of here and get some dinner. My wife is cooking over there, and I can smell it. And I'm hungry. I'm, like, very hungry. Hopefully I'm not just sitting here talking to myself. Which wouldn't be the first time I've ever done that. Okay, Our Bros says, who makes the music for my videos? I am a full screen partner, and with that I get an entire library of music that's available to me. So all of my music is provided by a company called audiomicro.com. It's not free music, by the way, so yeah, if you guys want to, get the music that I use, it's not something you can just go and download for free, especially without being pirated, and I don't really want to do any of that stuff. Looks like he's back. All right, are you back?
I'm back. Sorry, I crashed. I don't know why.
Whoa, you just did like a Max Headrun thing there.
What's that?
You just did like a whole Max Headrun thing there. Remember him?
No.
He was like, God, was he a Pepsi or a Coke? It was like the floating ahead in the monitor thing, and he was always like, like glitching. Whatever.
Oh.
I'm an '80s child like you. I think we're close to the same age, but anyway. All right. Yeah, everyone's been sitting here telling me to stop talking to myself because that's what I was doing for a little while.
Sorry about that, guys. I don't know why. That's probably a sign that I need to upgrade my ancient hardware. My Skype crashed. I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, some people are still putting up here that Bomber 2 is in custody. That's awesome news. I hate the fact that he's going to get a hot meal and a roof over his head, but
yeah, sucks,
whatever. At least he gets to be somebody's girlfriend.
Right. I did not get I did not get Gears of War Judgment Rampage, if you're asking me.
Matthews Honhart wants to know if I think the AS Rock Pro what do you think of the ASRock Pro 4 motherboard? I think ASRock, or ASRock, whatever they call it, has definitely made a name for itself over the past, I'd say 5 years. ASRock was always known as like the cheap motherboard, the $35 motherboard, something cheap to make your computer run, but you hoped it would work long enough before you could save up money and replace it. But now, that Pro Series motherboard, I really like it. In fact, ASRock, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, makes the Fatality Series motherboard, which is a gaming grade motherboard. So ASRock Pro 4 for Intel, highly recommend it. Human Livestock says Spaceballs news anchor. I love Spaceballs, by the way. I have that movie memorized.
Yeah, right.
And I swear I wore out a DVD. And then my wife bought it on Blu-ray for me. All right, guys. 14 minutes left in the stream. Get in your questions, guys.
I was going to touch back on, you had stated how, Windows doesn't transfer to new hardware very well. Well, that's one advantage to Linux and Ubuntu. I can tell you guys right now, I switched out. I was running my server, Ubuntu 12.04.2. It's the latest long-term release version of Ubuntu. I was running it on an ancient Dell Dimension 8200 with only 256 megabytes of RAM and a P4 in it. And I switched it over to a P4 Celeron D with 2 gigs of RAM, and the motherboard I put in there was a Foxconn something or other, and all I did was just transfer the 5 hard drives from one case to a new server case, and hooked everything up, plugged it in, and the computer booted right up, and everything was fine. So I mean, that's just one advantage to running Linux and Ubuntu that I just wanted to point out, and it's because the modules are built into the kernel, and that's what differs from the Windows operating system has all the different controller drivers separate for every controller, whereas the most common modules are built right into the kernel for Linux.
Yeah, I kind of liken Windows as into. Do you remember on the Spider-Man the Spider-Man movie where they had Venom? And that black tar kind of like makes its way into your body. That's Windows, and your body is the motherboard. And when you switch the motherboard, it's got to reinsert itself, and it's just not friendly at switching. Okay, so Red Axe Wins says Bitcoin mining talk. I don't Bitcoin, so I'm not a person to talk
I don't
about
Bitcoin
that.
either.
I don't do Bitcoin.
And I saw the other day a bunch of YouTubers were talking about purchasing stock of Bitcoin. And how it was going from like $2.16 a share down to $76 a share, and how it was just so volatile,
Oh yeah, it's an interesting currency system, an online currency system. Very strange.
Right.
Let's see here. Jessica Gleason says, "What's my take on the Zonar Phobos sound card?" I was looking at it, and I hear my daughter banging on my door. So you guys are probably going to hear a kid screaming soon. I've never. I looked into it. I've looked at the specs. 1 second.
That's fine. Yeah.
So I've listened to I've heard it before in a test system. Micro Center had one in a system that was there. Can you hear that? Can you hear her?
Yeah, it's all right.
My daughter wants to be on the stream or something. Anyway, you guys are just gonna have to listen to that in the background. She's trying to literally break in the office. It is extremely expensive. But a lot of the games I play with my Logitech G930 headphones here. These are a wireless USB headphone system. They're 7.1 surround. They're cordless, so I'm not plugging into a sound card. I prefer something like this because it's all in one. This is the sound card, and I really do like Logitech products when it comes to the sound quality. So it's hard for me to recommend a sound card that's $200, $300, and unless you're building some sort of a home theater PC, like a surround system, then you want to invest in your sound card because you're going to be putting that into a receiver. So Jessica, I don't know. It really depends on what you want to do. If that money takes away from any other performance aspect of your computer, I never think sound cards are worth the money. My system over here. My system over here that people have been drooling over as long as I've been on YouTube, I use the built-in THX sound card on the motherboard. I don't use
Yeah.
discrete sound.
Yeah.
Because like I said, my sound card right now is my mic. My Yeti is a sound card. So I have all the sounds in the system going through the Yeti into my earphones. So I can hear me talk, I can hear you, everything through the headset and through the mic. So me personally, I don't spend the money on sound cards like that. QEvil1015 wants to know what I plan on doing with the 900D case when I get it. I plan on taking my water cooling to the next level. And I'm thinking about doing straight acrylic tubing with all bends being done with swivel fittings and making it look like almost like steampunk kind of in a way. I've always liked the steampunk look, and since it's a black case, I might do copper accents on it rather than black or red or white or whatever's mainstream. But the amount of room that I have in that case, God, what couldn't I do? I could build another computer and put it inside there if I wanted.
Right.
It's huge. The 900D is so big, you can fit my Switch 810 in there and still have room. You can fit an you can fit an 850D inside of it, or an 800D inside of it, I mean.
I'm like so behind on all of the hardware and the cases and everything, like I said, but I had tweeted out that picture of this full-size case that I thought was humongous.
Yeah.
And you just like tweeted back and you're like, "Oh, that's tiny."
It's a baby. Yeah. I mean, the case I have over here, that's not the 800D is bigger, the Cosmos 2 is bigger, the 900D is just, there's nothing on the planet as big as the 900D. My Switch 810 has 9 expansion slots. So, and I could fit, I took out all the external or the internal hard drive bays, but I could have fit 10 hard drives in there if I wanted. It's a massive case. We do an episode just on case
I don't understand. Is that still considered a desktop case?
It is. But it's considered a super tower.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah. King of Honey Badgers, awesome name by the way. And I like his little picture. Don't care. It's a badger. Am I familiar with iOS hardware? If so, your iPhone 3GS over the period of about 3 days went from 8-hour battery to 10-minute battery. Any idea what's wrong? Yeah, you probably reached your max battery cycles. Charge cycles. Yeah. See, what a lot of people who aren't familiar with nickel metal hydrate, which that's not, but it's a LiPo or lithium polymer battery. Maybe it's a lithium ion. I don't remember what they put in the 3GS. They have a certain amount of charge cycles that they're rated to, and just like when you have an RC car or anything and you're playing around with it and then it just kind of dies on you, there's no warning.
Laptop batteries. Same
batteries.
with laptop. Well, older laptops, they just don't hold a charge anymore.
That's what's happened to your phone, and you got to look at the age of your phone. It's the battery on that thing is done, and you can don't get upset if that sounds like it's scary to you. Most places, if you go on Craigslist for your area, you can find some sort of an iPhone repair guy in your area, and they can switch those batteries out usually for like $50 or something. So.
What could you look on Craigslist? Some people put up Craigslist things.
Yeah, Matthews Honhart says it's lithium ion because he works for Apple. Yeah, that's the thing with lithium ion. They have great battery life, but when they're done, they're done. It's not like you start to see a gradual decay in the battery. It's just the battery is microchip controlled. There's microchips inside the battery, and when they're done, that's it. So when people start saying they see degrading quality of life in their batteries, especially on their iPhones, it's like, no, you have something on your phone that's eating your battery. There's nothing wrong with the battery of your phone. Okay, so Joe34J says, so how about that Sapphire Radeon HD 7770? I don't really have a whole lot to say about it. Like I said, I'm a hardware snob. I'm very used to the high-end graphics cards. I've not dabbled in the $150 range. 100. I think that card goes for like 165-ish. I don't play around in that range too much, normally because the systems I'm building are for people who, when they say build me a computer, I want to be able to play ultra settings. You don't dip below the 7870 at that point. Anyone know about a good $40 case with a window and LED? Go and look at the $850 PC build I did. It's titled How to Build a Gaming Computer. That case was $35, and I don't remember if it has a window. I know it has a vent on the side panel. Go and check it out. That case we were all really impressed with all the features you get for that case for $35. Jake, what?
The Ultra case that I took a picture of today and showed you, I actually bought that at a used computer parts store for like $20, and it's got a side window, and there's no LED like the guy's asking about. But that's just something to check into if you have any used computer parts stores. This case was like brand new. I mean, there was just a few little nicks on the clear case, but otherwise it came with everything for $20. I mean, something to look into.
Yeah, and Matthew's saying that Logisys has a lot of $40 cases. And that case I used for the 850 build, it does come with a blue LED fan, which kind of gives you the color or light that you're looking for. So it may work for you. 5 minutes left, guys, so this is the lightning round. Get in your questions, and I just want to go ahead and say ahead of time, Ubu, thanks for coming onto the show. It's been fun. The hour goes by so fast when I have someone on here with me.
It's amazing, yeah, and I really appreciate you having me on. I mean, it means a lot to me. I'm at about 840 subs. It seems like it's taken me a while to get to that 1,000 mark, but once I do, I'm going to do a giveaway for all my current subscribers. And, you guys, if you're interested in Crysis 3, or, I even have Black Ops 2, I have Shank 2, I have Black, and I do a little tech, it's a little tech things here and there. Come on and check out my channel. It's Ubuntu Addicted.
And it is in the description, by the way. You guys can just click it and it'll take you there. So make sure you open it up in a new tab, though. Don't leave the stream now. Still have a few minutes left.
This guy says, Human Livestock says, what video capture card do you recommend? I use MSI Afterburner and Fraps to record gameplay, but I'm sick of 30 frames per second recording cap and lag.
I hate Fraps because it really reduces the audio codec to where everybody sounds like they're talking on an AM radio. Afterburner's okay, I just don't care much for its capture software. The software I use is not free, but then again, neither is Fraps if you want longer than 30 seconds. I use DxTory. In DxTory, you can capture any frame rate you set, including 120 frames per second if you have a 120 hertz monitor. Now, to capture at that rate, you have to have a good system. So, I mean, if you've got a mid to low end system, don't think that you're going to be able to capture 60 frames per second. But what do you want to do with the footage? You want to put it on YouTube? YouTube's 30 frames per second cap, so you're going to capture it 60 frames per second, upload it, and then be converted back to 30 frames. So, and a lot of people too, they're so caught up on the frame rate of when they capture video. When you watch your TV, you're seeing 29.97 frames per second. When you go to the movie theater, you're seeing 24. So that's the standard.
And there's another thing that I noticed too that I don't know a lot of people take note of. For those of you who do YouTube or capture video, go to YouTube and download like a video and just look at the max bitrate setting of it.
Oh, it's low.
It's no more like an HD or a 720p download. When I look at it after YouTube's done transcoding it and everything, it's like 15 megabits max bitrate. So I see people capturing like 30 meg bitrate, and it's just taking up hard drive space for no reason when it's just going to be down converted by YouTube again.
Yeah, and when I do my captures, I capture at 4,000K if I do any sort of capturing for YouTube. Like right now, I'm uploading to YouTube at 10,000K only because I'm trying to fix the voice lag. And by the way, is the voice lag still there? I think it might be there a little bit. I think it's better than it was. Like when I was on here with Boogie, it was like a half a second delayed. It was stupid. Carson Bigelow, that's an awesome name too. I like the way the Carson's spelled. What's my opinion on the Gigabyte Super OC GTX 680? Should you get that or another vendor? If it's the WindForce, the Gigabyte WindForce with the 3 fans is the coolest and quietest graphics card you could buy. However, I don't know what the hell Gigabyte has up its ass. It's so obsessed with blue PCBs. And if you have a case window, like me, I would never put a blue PCB in my computer because you can see everything on the inside and it just looks god-awful. So if you don't want the blue PCB, look at MSI and their Twin Frozer, or look at EVGA with their dual fan setup. It's a little bit boxy and square, but it's a lot cooler. You could also always get a reference card and add an aftermarket, triple fan cooler for it if you wanted as well. So, looks like people are saying there's no voice lag tonight. Thank God. I don't know what the hell was going on, but it was really, really pissing me off. All right, guys, so if you haven't done it yet, go over to Ubu's channel. The link is down there in the description. Go and click subscribe. Even if you haven't checked out any of his videos yet, give him a chance. Go and watch them. YouTube is a funny place now, because I think you said it in your video, and I don't want to start any of the controversy though. The big channels are growing so incredibly fast. Smosh has 9.1 million. They've gained nearly 1 million in the last couple of months. What is going on?
It's just crazy. It's crazy how it seems like the big YouTubers, they'll jump. What did White Boy went from 1 million to 2 million in like 6 months or whatever? They just, I don't know. I mean,
you know what it is? I think there's just, it has to do with Google's algorithms of promoting the most watched stuff.
Right.
So it just snowballs.
And it makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and I just got to keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm still having fun doing it. So that's why I do this stuff, you know, and that's what it is. So
I feel bad for Chiefeth. I sound like I have a lisp. Hey, Chiefeth. Now he says, yeah, I made it. He had to work late, so he missed the stream. Unfortunately for you, we're getting off now. I mean, I'll give it a couple more minutes, but hey, at least you caught the last few minutes. And don't forget, there is always the replay button, and you know it's always going to be there. It's like the last 4 uploads, I think, are live streams. But I am coming out with a video. I'm going to be making it tonight. I'm going to be releasing it tomorrow. I still am not sure exactly which one I want to do. It's going to be a toss-up between the 7870 gigahertz review and overclocking performance, or how to know when it's time to upgrade your PC. And I kind of feel like I could have some fun with that. How to know it's time to upgrade your PC. I feel like I could almost make that as a spoof, but still get the point across. I know.
Right.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Jake Harvey just made me happy by saying Smosh is garbage and so is PewDiePie. When I watch those types of channels, I feel dumber by the end of it. But let's face it, they're playing the system because YouTube is like 80% 13 to 17-year-olds. So if you can go out there and put out that kind of humor, then you'll grow.
Right.
But whatever it is, it's working for me, and I'm glad I could get get you guys a little bit of exposure. Even 10,000 on YouTube is still not a very big chunk of the pie, but it's something. And
it's awesome to have seen you grown. Like I said, I think I was in maybe at the couple thousand mark for you, and I mean it's awesome you're almost at the 10,000 mark or whatever, wherever you're at, and it's just keep doing what you're doing, man. I really appreciate the videos you're putting out. You put in a high quality effort, and you can tell in your videos.
I about kill myself sometimes because I told my wife the other day, because I'm an insomniac, and if anyone follows me on my vlog channel, you guys will know I'm an insomniac. I don't sleep. Like last night, I went to bed kind of early, I guess you could say, but it was like 1:30 on a work night, and my daughter comes in and wakes me up about 6 in the morning. And so I've been taking some sleep aids, and I told my wife that's why there hasn't been that much videos in the last week, because my YouTube career starts at 9 p.m. when everyone else goes to bed. So then it's like, hey, I can go to work now and do the YouTube thing. Well, I've been sleeping, so I got a little bit of energy back. So I'm gonna try and put something out good for you guys this weekend, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. And thank you guys for coming, Ubu. Appreciate you coming by and chatting with me.
I really appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah, we'll probably do this again sometime. If you ever want me to come on your channel, I'll be glad to do so.
Yeah.
And
excellent.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. That has been
Take
Ubu
care,
the
guys.
Tech Guru and Jay
Ubu out.
the Tech Addict. See you guys.